Welcome to the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast, a podcast dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Daniel Good and Tim Mitchell are your co-hosts today, and we're excited to bring you the latest from the frontiers of pharmacy practice. Let me remind our listeners that the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast is available for streaming on your favorite podcast streaming app, whether it be Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or YouTube. Be sure to bookmark and like our podcast to get notifications on the latest release. The comments and opinions shared today are those of our hosts, our guests, and not official statements of the Missouri Pharmacy Association, Mercy, nor Mitchell Pharmacy. Now let's introduce our guest. Tim and I are excited to bring Thomas McDowell, a fourth-generation pharmacist, to the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast today, and he operates 3 pharmacies down near the Scotland Neck, North Carolina area. Welcome, Thomas.
Thanks, Daniel. Glad to be here.
Well, this is very cool. You must be the first fourth-generation pharmacist I've met. So tell us that family story a little bit. This is something to celebrate.
Sure. So back in 1922, my great-grandfather purchased an existing pharmacy in Scotland Neck, which is a small town, very rural. We don't have a stoplight. We park in the middle of the street, which is kind of unique. And so the pharmacy has been in the community in the existing location since 1901. And then my great-grandfather purchased it in 1922. He was a UNC Chapel Hill grad and also a World War I ambulance driver in France. And
Wow.
And so he came back and really kind of took that first entrepreneurial step to buy the pharmacy. And then my grandfather, he graduated from UNC in 44, and it was an accelerated program at that point during World War II. He also was in the Navy in World War II as he served at the Bethesda Naval Hospital and came back home to Scotland Neck to work with his dad. And he practiced for, I believe, 60 years plus, and was on the board of pharmacy in North Carolina in the 50s, and very active in the community. And then my father graduated from UNC as well in 81 and came back and kind of took over and brought us into some more technology and saw Medicare D come out. And then I graduated in 2016. So I guess I didn't have, you might think I didn't have much of a choice, but my father never pressured me and really wanted me to choose something that would make me happy. But I kind of, the more I thought about it, felt like, there would be nothing more rewarding than being able to help and serve my family and friends in my hometown. So I went to UNC, graduated in 2016, like I said, and have been practicing ever since. And we've expanded and bought a couple more stores and have 3 stores at this point.
That's very inspiring, Thomas. Like what Daniel just said, I don't think I've ever met someone that's a 4th generation owner. And it really gives me a good feeling about what you're doing. Given the current market, the current state of the profession with all the crazy things with PBMs, and what do you do to stay relevant in the business? It's much different than when your father, your grandfather, and your great-grandfather were in business. You've got third parties telling you what you're worth, but you're still digging at it, and you're being very innovative. Tell me some of the things that you've been doing to kind of get out there. So
Yeah. I think we've really focused on progressing into clinical services more so lately. My dad always says it's a lot harder than it used to be, because he's seen that progression with the PBMs dominating the market share and kind of controlling the reimbursement and the take it or leave it contracts and so forth. So we've really had to start, since I came out of school, really focus on every single claim that we're filling and making sure that we're, focusing on the business side while also taking care of the patient. And, it's just different when the reimbursement is so volatile and sometimes underwater. So we've tried to grow on the volume side, but we've also leaned into vaccines and adherence packaging. We package hundreds of patients every month and deliver to about 6 counties. And in our pill packaging, we call it MacPack.
We also love that MacPack.
Kind of play on McDowell. Yeah. And a lot of people call my grandfather Mr. Mac. And funny story on that, I'll go off track a minute. So my great grandfather was called Spec because he wore spectacles. And so he was about 6 foot tall, and I'll tell you why I'm telling you that in a minute. So then when my grandfather was born, everybody called him Little Spec, and then he ended up growing to be 6'8".
Oh my goodness!
So he eventually had to drop the little, and he ended up being called Spec too, even though he didn't wear spectacles. But anyway, my grandfather he was 6'8", so he was on campus at Chapel Hill.
I'm sure they probably were looking to him for the basketball team, right?
well, so they didn't catch him for that, but the long jump coach in cross country flagged him, and he had never played sports really. He worked and grew up in the Great Depression, and so he got recruited to be on Carolina's long jump team, and in the ACC tournament, he actually briefly held the ACC record for the long jump, but the guy right behind him broke his record, and so it didn't last for long.
Oh no!
So, but anyway, we always really focus on. My grandfather always said, "Take care of the patient, and they'll take care of you," and that has certainly become harder because so much is outside of our control at times. But I still think it rings true, and we focused on caring for folks like their family, and also trying to add valuable services that we can get paid for, like the vaccines. The remote patient monitoring is something we're heavy in right now as well.
That's cool. So looking at the remote patient monitoring, what types of things are you doing?
So we're
attacks and so forth, or
we're focused on diabetes and hypertension mostly. So setting patients up with either a blood pressure and/or a blood glucose monitor, and we counsel them, show them how to use it, set it up, develop a care plan. We have physician oversight via telehealth, and then we actually go through all of that and then send them home. And when they check their blood pressure at home, we see the readings here remotely back at the pharmacy in real time. And so we're able to, really monitor their alerts and readings, call them if there's a high or a low, and check on them, help them manage their medications, and also send their readings to the doctor. We send them every month, and it has all their readings, so they don't have to log them, handwrite them anymore. And so we've had a lot of interventions with that. The doctors like to see the readings and the data. Patients that have been in the program for over 90 days have seen about 10 to 15 millimeter mercury reduction in blood pressure on the systolic side.
Wow, that can be huge.
And then over 1 point in A1C reduction as well. And so got some good data coming out, and we got about 300 patients doing it at this point. And
no kidding. So, and Medicare's paying for that, right?
You're in soon too.
Yeah, Medicare reimburses for that.
Correct. So we're able to, through our partnership with the company we use, we're able to have medical billing and bill on the medical side, and it's usually no cost for a lot of the Medicare plans in our area, at least. So they get a free monitor and have that pharmacist oversight. So that's been great.
And that's a sophisticated monitor that's connected to Wi-Fi, so you get real-time monitoring for hypertensive crisis, the whole thing, right?
Yeah, well, and even better, it's on cellular gateway, so they don't have to have Wi-Fi. They just have to have a cell signal in there where they live, which in our area we have run into a few times where even they don't have a cell signal, and we've gone out to the home and put it near a window and help figure that out. But so they just need a plug. They just need an outlet.
Just need to be able to plug it in. Yeah.
That is great,
Yeah.
because down here in rural Missouri, where Tim and I are, same problems that some of those families have no Wi-Fi where they're at. They literally have to drive into the Dollar General or the McDonald's to get to a Wi-Fi source. So this is very cool.
Yeah, so that, a lot of people wonder, well, a lot of the doctors are wondering about that, but, cell signal, it pings off multiple carriers. So it's not, tethered to just one company. So we very rarely run into issues. And we're starting at our new store, which is even more rural than my other, up in northeastern North Carolina. And so we're excited to start there and hoping that the cellular connectivity will continue to work well for us.
So that's RPM. So have you done any RTM, or is that something you're thinking about getting into as well? The therapeutic.
Yeah, did actually talk about that with some folks down at Clearwater Beach at NCPA.
Multi-locations. Yeah.
Multiple locations conference. And so, yeah, definitely looking into that. We're dipping our toe into chronic care management a little bit. We've run into an issue where one of the big payers, I don't know if you saw, rolled out some new policy where they said they weren't going to pay for RPM. And then they got a lot of pushback and walked it back. So we were trying to navigate that and trying to figure out how we could continue to care for these patients. And so we're looking at CCM, and then also looking at transitional care management, TCM, kind of that hospital discharge into the home, where we can plug ourselves in there too in the future.
That's a very innovative practice. And, I think there's a lot of pharmacy owners that are looking at those types of things, just trying to figure out if that's relevant to them. But do you see that as the future of what we're doing? I mean, given the current state of reimbursements on the PBM side of things, I mean, we're working on PBM reform and, nationally and through states, but as we all know, it is going to take time for those things to happen. Even the national stuff that just passed is going to be 2029. There's going to be a lot of stores that won't be open if they just continue to rely on that. They're going to have to look at these things like this. I mean, what's your advice to people? Do you think that's the future?
I do. And I would say I'm really, really optimistic and, bullish on the future of independent pharmacy. I really am. I think we are at a precipice where we need fair reimbursement. And, I'm hoping that's coming. Like you said, it might take time. We need to dispense because that gives us access to the patients. But I'm really focused on operating lean with automation and technology on the dispensing side and reallocating time and really focusing and leaning in on the services. We've got some expanded practice for CPPs in our state recently, and we just got test to treat for the first time in North Carolina for flu. And so, there's almost too many opportunities to pursue. And it's also a matter of getting paid for them. And the provider status thing is still kind of looms over us and is a big barrier. But we figured out a way to do it for RPM. And so I'm really excited. I hope that, if there's any students listening, that they will really consider community pharmacy and even consider ownership, because there's going to be a ton of people exiting and looking to sell their practice. And if you're wanting to practice clinically, I think there's no place to practice more broadly clinical than community pharmacy. So I'm really excited. It's just weathering this storm and, trying to come out the other side and be open. And we're pivoting constantly. I just, I talk to my dad all the time.
We all do.
Just have to pivot every year. And there's always something new, which I enjoy the strategy, but it is, it does, it kind of always creates something new to work on. So I'm really excited. Just hope that the reimbursement piece can get to a fair place from the cost to dispense standpoint. Be careful what we ask for.
Exactly.
If we get an ADAC plus, that plus has to be fair.
Right. Totally agree.
That's key.
For sure.
Well, Thomas, your team does some pretty advanced practice there with the monitoring, and now you're getting into chronic care management. What's your staffing like? I know in our rural area, it's hard to get some of our pharmacists to go back into those settings. They want to move to the big city and whatnot. How do you manage to staff it?
Yeah, that's a great point. It is a challenge for sure because I think there's a lot of people that have kind of a perception of community pharmacy from maybe the big box side, and they're a little leery of going that direction, and so that there might be more folks pursuing other places. But we're fortunate to have some folks that are from the area that have come back, and this new store that we just bought, the timing was perfect with a young man that had been managing a store a little ways away in a bigger city, but wanted to move back home near this store, and having kids, and so that just worked out really well. And so we've got some got folks that are local in each area, but it is a challenge, and I'm looking for somebody to PRN right now because I'm kind of jumping in on the bench to cover.
Well, I wish I was in North Carolina. I'd come work with you, buddy.
Yeah, come on. If you want to retire, let your kids take over, and you can just live at the beach out here. And
there you go.
For me. Your
well,
kids might not like that.
Yeah, no, I actually. Yeah, other than just being far away from our other family members, I think North Carolina is a great state to live in. Yes. And that state has always been a leader in the profession as far as all the different things that have been published and the things that you guys are able to get passed through your legislature. So I know we've had Jessie Stout on not too long ago, and she's a leader. Amina, Joe Moose. I mean, you guys have some powerhouses, and Thomas McDowell is definitely one of those as well.
You just named some definite big names and really progressive advocates and innovative folks. Honored to be even thought in the same conversation as them. But we got a lot of good things going on, and a lot of pretty progressive practice. Practices, and we've had a lot of stuff coming out of the pipeline. We've had some PBM reform lately that's going to help some on the reimbursement side and not allowing differences in reimbursement between PBM-owned pharmacies and non-PBM-owned pharmacies, and then also some new definitions on rural, and so a lot of good stuff. It's just getting some teeth behind it. Getting it enforced, and I hope we can maybe replicate, Tennessee and Arkansas on some of what they're doing too.
Sure, and Arkansas they're getting sued. I think Tennessee will probably be in the same boat if they get theirs passed. Yeah. So, but you know what, John Vinson and Governor Sanders and all the people at Arkansas Pharmacy Association. I don't know the people at Tennessee, but I can tell you, I know Jay Phipps has been active in Tennessee, which we're having him on, I think, here before long as well. Yeah, and there's a lot of cool things going on throughout the nation. So looking into the future, where do you see the profession of pharmacy going? I mean, I know you're being encouraging. You said you're bullish. Where do you see the profession throughout the whole nation? It's going to take a while. But tell me your thoughts.
Well, I do think that we're going to continue to be leaned on for services and chronic care type activity and services. Primary care is, they are really becoming vertically integrated and also really getting squeezed by the insurers as well. And honestly, in just as difficult of a boat or, as independent pharmacy at times on the reimbursement side, from what I hear. And so I think that, allows us more collaborative opportunities with them to support each other. And I think there'll probably be more multi-location owners from a regional perspective in the independent pharmacy space, as a lot of folks exit that might not be interested in doing some of these services. And, hopefully some new owners will come in and jump in and expand. I do think we're going to become, really, in my mind, healthcare hubs, especially in the rural areas. And so I think we're going to be called upon to do a lot of exciting, innovative things in the future. And I'm really focused on trying to automate and streamline everything possible on my dispensing side, looking at AI, looking at technology and automated dispensing to really lean and focus on providing the care and the human touch. I tell my folks, I'm not looking to replace any jobs with AI, but I'm looking to double down on the human
Absolutely.
connection. I'm looking to double down on the care because people still want it, they still need it, and from a clinical perspective, especially in our area, it's the only option. It's the best option. On the CPSN side, you always hear care is best provided locally, and so I'm a big believer in that. And I think we're going to be more appointment based, more care based, more service based, and I think that's what students are wanting and what new grads are wanting. So it really, everything's kind of lining up. It's just like you said, weathering that reimbursement storm and still leaning on the PBMs pretty heavy is tough.
Absolutely. Well, we're kind of, believe it or not, we're kind of winding some things down. Daniel, you want to ask a few final questions, and then I'm going to throw something at you here. So
I think one more question before we get there. Yeah. Thomas, what advice do you have for this next generation of students and residents and folks coming out? You are an innovator and making it happen. What is your message to the next generation of pharmacists coming out?
I would say explore all your options. There's a lot of push for going maybe a certain direction that might be viewed as more clinical. I'm biased from community, but there's a lot of times it's pushed to go this direction for clinical, or I want to do AmCare. I hear everybody we interview for residency says I want to do ambulatory care, and that's great. That's great. I think that's wonderful, but it's not necessarily as prevalent as I think that they might think it is, and it's also very niche. And it's often big city health system based. Right. And so, we get a lot of people interviewing for our community residency. We have a residency program with UNC, Chapel Hill, Eshelman School of Pharmacy. And, a lot of them interview with us either maybe to step into a PGY2 AmCare, but I think they really are surprised by how clinical our practice is. And I think they often maybe consider community more. So I would say, look at all your options, keep community in mind. It's very clinical, it's rewarding. You get tons of patient interaction. If that's what you're looking for, you get a ton of it. So try to use that fourth year to look at all your options and then you can make a good decision about what path is best for you.
That's cool. That's great advice. So I do that, and I didn't warn you ahead of time. I'm sorry. I usually warn our guests, but okay. I usually ask our guests a question about themselves that may be something unique that maybe not everybody may know. And if there's something you'd like to share, maybe so people would kind of learn something about Thomas that maybe not everybody knows. So,
well, now I'm starting to think, Tim, I'm not very unique or interesting. So I might. I don't have very many hobbies these days. I have 2 young kids, 4 and 2, and we're expecting another in mid-April.
Congratulations!
Thank you. So I spend a lot of time with them. I will say I'm a huge Carolina sports fan. Go to all the football games and go to a lot of basketball games. Huge Carolina basketball fan. We got a pretty rich history there. I was in Phoenix in 2017 when we won the national championship.
Oh, very nice.
And so that was one of my best memories with my dad because we grew up going to games since I was a young kid. So I'm passionate about sports and basketball. I grew up playing basketball. My dad was a coach. Coached varsity boys basketball in high school. And he coached actually my JV team. So he coached me all the way from 7th grade to 12th grade. Cool. As you can imagine, there might have been some headbutting at some point there.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so, but he was a great coach, and he actually coached in college a little bit as well at the D3 level.
No kidding.
So we kind of had that bond, and now we get to work together. So I'm not super interesting.
That's cool. No, you're an interesting fella. And I think you've already let the cat out of the bag, but the fourth generation pharmacist blows me away as probably one of the most unique things about you. And the fact that you're plugging away and doing all the things that you're doing, being so innovative, and you remain positive, and trying to encourage others to do the same. So that's a huge thing. So.
Well, thank you. We're very proud of that, and it's a testament to our community and patients for supporting us. We've been in the same existing building since 1901. We have the original tile floors from 1901, original mahogany cabinets.
Oh, we need to see some pictures sometime of these.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
Is there a soda fountain in there as well?
Used to be. I wish it was. My grandfather took it out in the 80s when my dad was at college. Didn't even ask my dad.
Oh wow! Just yanked it out of there.
It's like this isn't working anymore. And Dad was like, "I wish you had asked me about it." But we still have all the kind of the memorabilia and the syrups and the dispensers, and it's super interesting. We might have to bring it back one day.
Yeah, well, it's almost kind of like a museum probably right now, just looking at all the different things in there. So we'll have to. Do you have pictures on your website? I
think on our Google page we have some. It's a unique, downtown Main Street store, 2 stories, stained tiles, and really neat place to practice. It's a blessing.
Is your son or daughter on their way to Carolina to follow in your footsteps of pharmacy school?
Yeah. No pressure, but I just tell my wife, and tell everybody that I ask, I just hope that the opportunity is there. That that's kind of my goal, is that the opportunity is there if they wish to do so. But whatever they want to do, that will make them happy and will make me happy. So no pressure.
Working on that Generation 5.
As long as they don't go to Duke. That might be where I draw the line.
Well, as you know, Tim's son is in the shop with him, learning the ropes to take over. And my daughter just finished her residency in pharmacy, so she's joining the ranks as well. So, and my son, he's in med school, but I'm off to the Big 12 tournament with him this weekend. We're going to go see Kansas play this weekend in Kansas City.
Yeah, I'd love to go to a game at Kansas at Fog Island.
Yeah, it's a place.
But Daniel, so that's awesome.
Yeah, Daniel, you want to close us out here?
Yes, very good. Well, thank you, Thomas, for joining us. It certainly has been enjoyable to talk with a 4th generation pharmacist, but also just to hear the role that you are providing for your community, not just one, but 3 different communities down there in North Carolina. So thank you very much for being with us. And we thank our listeners for being part of the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast as well.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today for the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast. And please share this episode with your friends and colleagues, and seek out the previous Pharmacy Frontiers podcasts on your favorite podcast channel.